Welcome to Scene, where the art world meets the real world. Every 2 weeks, we sit down with emerging and established artists to offer a genuine glimpse into their lives and minds, all in an authentic and totally straightforward manner. I'm Carrie Scott, your host. And with 2 decades of experience as a curator and art historian, I firmly believe in the transformative power of art, if it's seen. I'm really thrilled to share my interview with Leonardo Drew with you because it really unpeels his character and delves into the blurred lines that define his work. Leonardo isn't a typical artist. He's a visionary, a pioneer, but he's also a true maverick in contemporary art. And listen, this man has so much energy and so much personality that he gives willingly to me in the studio, but also to all of us in his work. His installations and sculptures, they break every artistic boundary there is. Like Picasso, he broke molds really early on, catching the attention of Marvel and DC Comics as a teenager, and since then he has dedicated himself to art in a way that I've seldom seen in my 20-year career. He himself says he's addicted to making art, not substances, driving him to create without bounds, without boundaries. He never stops. And so our interview, it explores the stories, the inspirations behind his work, and I think it reveals this unwavering, authentic artist who embodies creativity and resilience. And I think his work, it is already part of the artistic canon, but our conversation, it firmly put him there for me.
Okay. I don't think I've seen one of those in eons, only on TV. And all the interviews I've done, I don't think anyone's ever done that.
Really?
No.
Huh.
Even CBS, they didn't.
They didn't
or
do it?
R21, no.
No?
Mm-mm. Flew right into it, yeah. But that's great. But
Yeah,
it's
that's okay, we're going.
That's like the old days.
We're
good?
We're all rolling.
All right.
Take your time.
So I never know how to start these.
Oh, you better start.
But no, I want.
Otherwise, I'm going to put your ass to work.
That's fine too.
It's where it happens here, honey. I mean, you hang out long enough, you find yourself cutting, chopping, breaking. I will put you to work.
That is fine with me.
Yeah, and you won't get paid. That's the other thing.
It's the story of my life. That's all good.
Yeah, welcome home.
No, but seriously, who are you? Who is Leonardo Drew?
Oh my goodness, wow. It depends on what angle you're approaching me from. Honestly, the younger me, the 13-year-old me, it's still there. Only recently have I actually started becoming an adult. If I were to think back at 13 and this photograph of me standing in front of that Captain America with this frown on my face, it's like that in itself was a political statement. I didn't know that I was making a political statement, but at 13, with a life-size Captain America, growing up in the hood, doing this painting, it speaks volumes, right? I think where we are now, everything is politicized, so is trying to navigate your way around who you are, if you're a person of color or what gender you are, or, your preference or whatever. All these things are under scrutiny, and how we address that in the arts, also very interesting. I'm finding as I'm sort of navigating still, on my journey, being an abstraction is obviously you leave yourself to sort of like multi-directional possibilities that can be, endless. But the truth of the matter is, like, things are so in such a state at the moment that you kind of feel like you kind of need to be a part of, a joiner, sort of be a, But I think habitually I'm not. I'm going to make, art based on, like a receiver. I mean, I'm an antenna. So, there's like information's coming in, no matter where I am in the world. I mean, my travels are so much a part of how I make things because it's information. That information has to go through you and it has to find its way out. And I would say most artists, maybe even if they weren't even aware that they are sort of ciphers, this information is coming in, it goes through who you are as an individual, then it has to find its way out. And, I do this, because I absolutely have to. I'm an addict. So my travels are so much a part of adding to my vocabulary. I can go on and on about like places I've touched, China, Machu Picchu, Africa, how they've influenced like color in my work, where color wasn't a thing. Like the first works that you've seen, actually, I don't think they had any color in them. But then you saw that explosion a year later, right? Yep. After 4 years of working in a porcelain foundry and Jing'an in China, you're going to be affected, especially with the kind of history, glazing, and ground zero for porcelain. This part of China is just it's magical, and I'm going back there in November for like a month.
You are, in some ways, a total contradiction to your work, and in other ways, you are so like your work. So when we first met, right, and it was very brief at the Yorkshire Sculpture Park, you bring so much joy, and yet I feel so much weight in your work, so much weight.
Yeah, I hear this very often.
Do you?
Yes, of course. I'm like, yeah.
But do you?
Maybe it's an exorcism.
Well, right, and like, do you think you're in control of the work? Or does sometimes the work control you? That feels a bit slippery as a question, but...
Yeah, I think that we're intertwined. There's no separating those two things. So I'm not a split personality, that's for sure. I mean, it's like I know that, these things are happening because they actually have to happen. I'm making them because they have to be made. It's this kind of... I can't say that I have many obstacles stop me from exploring. And so when it comes to sort of trying to find out what the truth is about what I'm creating, whatever, I'm going to keep digging. To the point where nothing's really ever finished. I will bastardize, cannibalize past works, even works that are left in the studio that have been sold if they live here long enough.
They get changed.
I could tell you some stories, but incriminate me, But it's interesting, sort of like know that nothing is sacred here. So if we were talking in terms of the truisms when it comes to actually how I create, it has to do with like continue asking questions, trying to find answers, and like if I was going to have a dog biscuit or something that was sort of a carrot at the end of the stick that says, okay, this is the thing that drives you, then it's the question that drives me, and trying to find the answer to those questions. That's the key. And that makes me,
But, and when you say that, are there actual questions? Like, are there actual things you're trying to work out?
They're more philosophical.
Yeah.
They're not pointed. They're not necessarily grounded in anything you would knowingly say like, okay, you need to sort of address this issue. It's more like if you were to ask the question, where are we collectively going, right, as human beings? My answer would be that it's much, the answer to that question is much bigger. It's elusive, yes, but it should be elusive because in the end, if we were to hold a magnifying glass to who we are collectively, it would be pretty, obvious to know that we are looking for an exit. Collectively looking for an exit. We have a self-destruct. It's there for a reason. I do believe this. And it's like, in the end, we need to sort of navigate and continue sort of like, around this. But in the end, I think that we continue to sort of like try to figure out how to get out of here, And we're physically all are leaving anyway. But I think, maybe cosmically, if the dinosaurs had a place, and then they have to shift and move, then we actually also have to do that. And that's a cosmic understanding of things. And that relieves you of all the petty, smaller things that we sort of like find ourselves in now, If you're focused on these little things, then you miss the bigger picture. So developing a philosophy on how you navigate the short time that you're here on this planet, because in effect that you are only a part of a chain of events, that's what makes us who we are, like even the clothes that you're wearing, the history that you're breathing had to do with a past, right? So understanding that it gives you an understanding that you need to also continue to move, and respect things, your surroundings, and it lightens you up, so that it's a life philosophy. It's not an art philosophy; it's a life philosophy. So for me, it's I think we're always asked tough questions just by sheer existence. But in the end, we need to sort of like, step back and actually see the bigger situation, so that you can actually, navigate.
When you look, you mentioned abstraction really briefly, but when you look at your body of work as a whole, where do you see it sitting in a sort of bigger art historical context?
Standing on the shoulders of like, keep in mind what I just said in terms of just the idea of much larger than your journey is only a part of a chain of other journeys, right? Mm-hmm. And so, when I look at like art, it's not a mainstream understanding of like how to create. It's actually a more sort of like, largesse realization of like, who we are, why we make things, and what is the reasons behind it. Because we were to talk about some of the tribes of folks who have created things, like from Native Americans to my ancestors to the Oceanic people, and then it's just all these cradles of civilization that have made things for. Even creating tools. A lot of times it can be interpreted as a form of art. So like that's a long and like a winding history of making. And if you look at like these fantastic works that Picasso have done, you can see right away the Africanisms in it. And where he was drawing from. That definitely gives you sort of like a through line. So like that there's no sort of brackets or like, if you start doing that, say I am an illustrator or I'm a graphic designer or I'm a sculptor, just get rid of all that. The best art is actually made from an understanding a much, much, much bigger picture. So that's why like folks like Picasso can act, and Basquiat can like make these works fluidly, because they have a much, much bigger and broader understanding of the process of actually making,
But how did you get so free, right? I mean, you literally...
I started off as my work, DC, Marvel was trying to get me when I was a kid. That gives you an idea of facility where I was
like
at
Picasso.
age 13. Yeah, but this is what I mean. It's like it seemed like he had the same understanding of what that was, meaning in terms, is this a crutch or is this a sort of like a throughway to something else, like the throughway to something else is the way you want to go, that your facility gives you an understanding of how things are put together, you know. And that was the way I saw it, but I knew that that wasn't the end. So if these guys had approached me, and you know, like back in 1976, 77, I remember DC had that Superman movie out around that with Christopher Reeve, 1977. So they were using it as a kind of like a bargaining chip. Now, you know, a lot of those guys had their homes in Westport, and I was in Bridgeport, so they heard about me. So that was how they got a hold of me. And you know, Marvel was like, oh, you should join us. And DC was like, no, you should join us. We have the Superman movie out, you know. It's like, if Marvel doesn't have any movies, you know, might have things to change, you know. But it's like, I mean, I had seen Jackson Pollock, and that was it. That was a wrap, you know. I wasn't going to any of those places. It's like, okay, this guy went clean past the prettified surface, Jackson Pollock. Look at his work. Abstract, right? You look at the kind of work I was doing, and you look at his work, absolutely light years, but no, actually very much, you know, in tune with each other. And that was how I made the leap, because I understood that, you know, that, okay, there's a door that I need to go through. And using your facility could get you this. It wouldn't get me out of the hood. But this other door, a mysterious one that actually is like and as a black artist, there is no way you're going to be invited into the mainstream. It's just the way it was. When I met Jack Whitten, you know, like he, you know, he was my teacher at Cooper Union. He was like, this is the last stop, baby, you know. This is teaching, you know, it's where we're allowed. But, you know, you make your art because you love to make it. You know, you have to make it. You're an addict. And, you know, watching, you know, from that point when I made the transition, you know, asked questions about like, okay, what is this prettified surface? What's beyond the prettified surface? That was definitely Jackson Pollock, and opening a door towards abstraction and into a bigger and better understanding of what's possible, you know. I mean, it's got me here. We wouldn't be having this conversation now if I hadn't had that, you know, challenged myself at that point. Otherwise, it'd be, you know, making Superman and Thor cartoons, you know.
And you never looked back. You went from like 2D to 3D.
Yeah. It took and still, like you know, look behind you to see works on paper. That's why it's closest to drawing that I get. You know, color's been reintroduced. I started off really as a painter, you know. So you know, like color's only now starting to reintroduce itself. You know, so it's interesting, to say the least. Yeah.
You've also been part of a New York. I mean, it's almost like a Thelma Golden, like a world in which I saw her show, Black Man in whatever year that. I mean, I was a teenager, and it was Glenn Ligon and. I'm trying to think of some names quickly, but Glenn's,
Gary Simmons.
Gary, thank you. But Glenn's, I remember. I remember
was Mark
as a
in that?
kid.
Well, Mark probably was in. What year are we talking?
So. 90.
Oh no, Mark. Well, maybe Mark was in it. Yeah, Mark Bradford. He's a friend.
Maybe. Maybe Mark was in it. But I remember seeing Glenn's
Mark
work.
would be more like 2000s, maybe. But yeah.
And that right, the New York that she built, and you said standing on the shoulders of giants, but like. The New York that she built for Black artists, and the I'm saying this really badly.
Hold on. I see where you're going.
And now that people talk about that, we're like in a post-Black moment where you don't have to make work that's about a Black identity necessarily. That's never been part of your work.
It hasn't been, and I think that's a interesting point, and I'm glad that you did your homework. Just a few weeks ago, I was in a similar situation where the person made assumptions and did not do their homework, and I said, "Wow, that's interesting. That information is there now. It's like it's not difficult to find and get at, you know, really what the trajectory has been." And the kind of things that I've continued to sort of ask questions about. But like, and believe me, there's a lot of great art happening that has to do with dealing with identity. Absolutely has to be created, and it's very important. But there's the other side. Now, when I visited South Africa, Johannesburg, I went to, can't remember the name of the university, but I visited the kids there. I always make it a point to sort of visit the art schools, colleges, or their art programs. And so when I was there, the kids were all about representational work. So I asked them, I said, like, is there anyone here who's an abstractionist, would consider themselves an abstractionist? I think there was like 2 of them. I said, listen, you guys are all right. Don't worry. You're going to be okay. But the fact is that the rest of you guys have to realize that abstraction had its beginnings on the continent. You know, it's the absolute truth. It's there. You can see it, and it's been written about. But you need to sort of like own it, grab it. Interesting that language, you know, of abstraction, that when you were looking at like folks like Joe Overstreet, Jack Whitten, Mel Edwards, brilliant abstractionists, yes, completely kept out of the mainstream, out from a language that they are actually native to. It was almost like it's natural for us to actually, you know, go into abstraction because look at these fantastic totems and masks and you know, anything that you can sort of like, you know, like talk about when it comes to the creativity of works, you know, from the continent, you know. And it's like I mean, Picasso saw it, Braque saw it, they appropriate it. There's nothing wrong with artists doing this. It's what we do. The problems start when you start writing about it and calling it primitivism, or, you know, civilizing these primitives by way of, you know, these mainstream artists, you know, with their, you know, inherent intelligence, you know. But in the end, it's the truth of the matter is that the power is in those original, you know, like points of departure for a lot of artists. You know, this abstraction from the continent, you know. Oceanic people, same thing. Native Americans, same. There's power there because there was a respect and reverence for something much bigger. Back to what we were saying in the beginning. Keep that shit simple. It's a through line to something very simple, but it actually keeps you sort of like, you know, balanced as you sort of navigate this sort of the complexities of living, you know.
And what do you think that is? Just like communicating in its purest form?
Yes, but try not to make too much of it. I mean, that's where the problems start, when you overcomplicate it with, like, you know, over intellectualizing something that it's right in front of you, and I just try to get the hell out of my own way. So I think that, like, and continue to sort of like, you know, try to sort of push, you know, past, you know, you know, the simple thing would be to sort of acquiesce to, you know, like problems that are just right in front of you, you know. But you know, there are things that I've been privy to, mostly from traveling. I started that probably my first year of college. When I got out, came out to New York, I started opening up to like other, you know, that there's another world out there, but I had to figure out how to get out there. I didn't have any money. And I sort of like knew that, like, you know, if you're going to sort of have an additive to your, you know, your well-being, then you need to sort of like, you know, see what's on the other side, what, you know, and spoke to friends who gave me pointers on how I could do it with very little money. And first trip to Europe, you know, Paris, Italy, the Netherlands, Germany, and Spain, and Greece, and it was just like bouncing around with just almost nothing, you know, and like on the Euro pass and youth hostels, you know, and depending on your temperament, I mean, that can be that could be the soul journey of your life, you know. So it just opens your mind, you know, just opens your mind up, you know, just endless possibilities, you know. Yeah, and I mean, once that happened, it was on, you know, and it just, like I said, always was with this bigger understanding of what's possible. What's like, so just, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is that around the same time when your work became really physical?
Boy,
the
energy, I mean, my hands are like this for a reason. It's been like this nonstop. And when your body starts like now betraying you or breaking in places, it makes you question and say, "What was that a good idea to go nonstop 4 hours of sleep every day and just keep, I'm not married, don't have kids, so there's nothing really getting in the way of me and me sort of like doing what it is. I get up in the morning, I know exactly what I want to do, and there's nothing that I have to sort of like, play to in order to sort of get there. And like, I don't think there's anything wrong with relationships, but I definitely have not had them it's sort of like in a conventional way. Yeah. I found other ways to sort of make it happen,
So you mean it. When you say you're an addict, you kind of, that's not a throwaway comment. Right?
That's true. Yeah. It's a,
it makes sense.
But it's definitely bone breaking, and I can only tell you that. Like I need 2 knees now. Yeah, gotta get my hands worked on so that I can continue. But I also know that would be the next iteration, physical iteration, of like, okay, because because that's what the doctors told me right away. It's like, boy, it's like, what do you do exactly? It's like a boxer, athlete, like a intense, like, what you've done to your body. It's like, I said, it's just working. but when they look at it, MRIs and X-rays, it's like, oh, okay.
When you were explaining to them what you do, when you explain,
it's amazing. We're actually this island. We're not a part of the mainstream. They're clueless, and so when you tell them, but when you say you can Google me and you can do this and you can find this and that's when they light up. Because when you say art, it's just like, whoa, it's like the mind, it's like no. It's like there was some kind of trauma that happened, because your body's doing this, your hands are doing this, your knees are doing this. And like, I said, no, I'm a sculptor, and they still don't get it. And then when you say, Google me and you can see this, this, and this, and then they start to put it together. And they say, oh, this guy is like crazy. So we do come off as we're not like we ain't from around here,
No.
So you only know that when you get from around artists and you get to go to see your doctor or get to see real folks, and then you get a dose of
I do though. I love, I think it's so interesting how we describe ourselves, right? When you meet someone and you're like, oh, I say I'm a curator. Sometimes I say I'm an art historian. If I want the conversation to end, I'll say that. Other times I'll say, oh, I'm in art, right? It's interesting how we go out in the world. And it's curious to me that you said, I'm a sculptor in that last one. So is that what you come out with first, that you're a sculptor?
I mean, I try to get, because if the doctor is asking that question, if you say artist, a lot of people, when you say that, like when I'm going through customs, I say, whatever you do not say artist.
No, definitely not.
They'll take you to that back room, you know what I mean? It's like, no. It's like, I am not a hip hop artist, it's like, I'm not like I'll break a rap or whatever. It's like, no, and I don't need to go in the back room with you, So you don't say that. So they're catchwords.
Yeah.
So you better say, like get them close to something that's abstract enough that they can't, don't say artist. And don't say painter. It's like a house painter. When you say sculptor, it's like they don't know what to do with that. It's like sculpt hair, whatever. But it's like, but in effect, it's like they're playing in a place now that you're now in an element that you can control, and it becomes an abstract thing to them, but one that they kind of have a inherent reverence for. Because they don't understand it, but they know that there's something like a brain physician, a surgeon or whatever, or a physicist, So it's like, but, you say physicist, what if people go like,
Sure. Good for you.
It's like he's some kind of genius or something, So when you say sculptor, you fall in there somewhere, Yeah.
I know many people have asked you this, but I'm asking you it anyway. How do you start something, like any of the things?
You must have heard about the 7 crying babies.
I haven't heard about the 7
okay. Well, I will explain the 7 crying babies to you. Yeah, so usually I have rotating 7 things, and they all are screaming for attention. So I call them the 7 crying babies. They feed off of each other. And they assist, like, if this one's not working out or whatever, quickly jettison into the other one, over here. And this one's crying, needs attention. So you go run. So it's always his bouncing. 2 seconds ago when you guys came in here, you saw I was, like over there running. And I, say respectfully was like, okay, slow down. You need to, to speak to you to make sure that, you got something. And so you had a direction to go in. But, if this was your second time here, I would have been over there, and talking to you at the same time, And so, like, it's just that there's this kind of perpetual emotion and need to sort of like accommodate these 7 crying babies. So there's never a slump because they're in need of, and then they're replaced by the next body, of 7 crying babies. So it's like one leaves, it's like another one slashes right into, So there's always this kind of like
So does it almost feel like they don't start? They just
they become what they need to become based on the situations that are happening in the studio. So like I said, if someone was left behind, if something, someone bought something, left it in the studio, whatever, it's fair game. So it's like, if I need that material, like there's this collectors, I won't tell you who, but they had the nerve to leave something in the studio. And I remember one very perceptive curator remembered the piece, and then when they saw it the second time, they say, I remember this piece being more horizontal than vertical, And it was like, because I didn't replace it. It was like, I need those pieces. The next thing they would need that piece, and they took it out of here, and there was no time to sort of like, to fix it.
I mean,
it will happen. But that's just it's okay. I don't go to museums and try to like, look at my work and take it apart, because at the Met they go like, oh, don't let him, because he'll do crazy things. I'm not that crazy. If it's in the studio, I'll do that. But like, and if someone, I won't go to someone's house and start reworking their works. But my good friend Pam Joyner, she owns works, and I always look at it like,
don't touch it.
I said, boy, if I had a second go at this one, boy, I'll definitely change this up, And they're like, like, oh my God, don't do it, don't do it. Because, she's, Pam's like a very close friend, Fred and Pam. And like, and they will protect, and they are definitely all about, they have like a divining rod for sort of like finding great art consistently. And so, only if I was able to sort of like buy it back from them would I actually ever take anything apart. But the fact is that they are such champions of some of the best art that's happening right now, Yeah, and actually placing in the right places too. So assisting in that. Yeah.
But so there is no beginning. These works all just
that question.
Yeah, that question. I'm not letting
I would say there's a beginning, because I know that piece was over there one time, right over there, and that one over there was a part of that thing up there. So and so and those over there, the 2 pieces that you sold, the twins.
Yeah.
Look at those 2 over there. You see those 2? Uh-huh. They look like they're similar to the ones that you moved, right?
Absolutely.
Those are separate works at one point. And then I said, okay, you know what? You need to bring all these together to make this thing. Yeah. Crying babies, Yeah. They need to sort of like come together.
Are they all completely abstract? I mean, those are maps to me.
Really? See maps?
Yeah.
Like, what do you see? Yeah, that's good.
Like cityscapes.
Cityscapes.
Maps.
And people say, like, I'll tell you that the piece that I did at Madison Square Park, that was on the ground. It was we call it City in the Grass. That's the first time I ever titled anything. I did that for my good friend Brooke Rappaport, because she's like, curates these magnificent things in the park. And like, and we just needed that's it. For you, Brooke, I'll give it a title. But all these things are not titled. We can talk about that too. But
no, let's talk
the fact is that those the kids, They like to play outside and they could see what I'm doing in here when the gate is up, right? And they were going on like, that looks like like the city. Like if I was in the airplane looking down on it. And I was like, well, they would think that they're, there's like, they're like Gulliver and this is like a cityscape, And that was how I came up with that idea for City in the Grass. I had to give the credit to the kids in the neighborhood because they were going on and on about, boy, it looks like the city, because I start these things on the floor. I don't do them on the wall. They start on the floor and I work on them that way. And then I hang them in sections. And so I'm able to sort of work outside in the front and and they were able to sort of like just navigate through to sort of see that, to them it was a city. And I said, you know what, I got to use that idea. Yeah. And that was the birth of City in the Grass. Yeah.
But no titles otherwise. How come?
Because, you should be allowed to have your own experience without me telling you what you should be thinking. And a lot of times I end up learning a lot about, what I'm creating through you. Because it's not like I have all the answers. And if I have all these things, 7 crime babies that I'm working on, it's almost like, there's no real time to have real time with them. Not like this kind of focused time on trying to resolve this or that. It's like, a lot of times I'll visit them later in different situations after many years. And it's like, I say, boy, so that was what that was about. You know what I mean? But, watching bodies navigate sort of towards them, like they're black holes and try to sort of figure out, what they're seeing and, and just watching their bodies twerk and everything to sort of figure out okay, what it's like, it's me learning also, it's like, wow, they're, being able to have those conversations with them to sort of say what is it you looking, what are you looking at? Why are you, what is it,
What about when you bring, so some of the works that I've seen in London, right? They have cartoons and newspaper embedded in them, like the long piece downstairs.
That we call them 123s. Sort of like that thing up, like that kind of up there, the sections of that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. What was the question?
So with those, when you're pulling in kind of outside sources.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How did
it's just color. I just see it as color. It has nothing to do with anything specific. It's just that how do I get layers? And so and I'm not asking that question. There's a whole lot of material around, that's from previous works or whatever, and just grabbing them, in order to sort of to create dimension, and meaning, and a lot of times I don't know right then and there, but I was working on these smaller, sort of like that piece back there. You see these little,
tiles.
Yeah. But they actually are made from, like I say, all these remnants and things that are just floating around, have been here for years. And I go next door where we have even more material, and grab the computers, hobble it together, sort of create, so the next thing, So, and it could be some time later that I'll look at them and go that's what, I was working on. But it's like a lot of times it's this kind of.
It occurs to me that it makes you feel good making this stuff.
I know that a lot of artists sort of see what they do as a kind of a therapy. I've been doing it for so long. It's just the way it is, So if you took me away from it, like they say, I'm going to work on my hands and then I'm going to have to be 4 months. I don't even know what that could be, You probably should interview me at that time. This is happening soon. April 11th? Yeah.
And you're not going to be able to use your hands.
That's, I don't know to what, tomorrow, hopefully I'll be able to talk to them and find out to what, what does that mean exactly? When you say what kind of use, but they say 4 months to heal and stuff like that. And I was like, so it's there's no way around it, so I don't know that one. So it's so yeah, we're going to find out something, because I don't remember ever having a moment where it's where it's off, So it's going to be figure out how to make things. But I think the challenges are there, and those are the very things that if you held a challenge in front of me, that's the thing that gets me to salivate and want to like say like, okay, I'm gonna figure this
Figure it out.
Yeah. So I think that like in the end, I've definitely, as I've gotten older, it's less muscle and more brain. I gotten smarter and faster at resolving things. And it's just layers of educating yourself, history, that makes that happen for all artists, I think. You know, it's like, it's you've been making things for so long, it's just like a, you know, just it's just ever flowing. It's natural, you know. So yeah, I'm sure we'll have that conversation. Well, you say, okay, how'd you do?
Okay, you okay?
Let's see if I make it through. But like, we'll find out real soon.
I'm sure you will figure it out. I mean, these are all giant puzzles.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. You said it. Yeah.
So you will navigate this no problem, I think. What do you think is the biggest misconception people have about your work?
There used to be that misconception of like, okay, well, people are lazy. I mean, you know, when they sort of approach, artists of color, so they immediately believe that that's what your work is about. It's about the politics of you, and your journey is only about that. I say, indeed, that's in there, but there's also, like I said, there are all these other things that make up who you are and who we are collectively. So to limit me is to limit yourself, you know. So like if you're approaching the work and you're thinking that, oh, I'm just, you know, like I think that, you know, like, if he touches this material, whatever, it's only about that, you know. And if he's black, it's absolutely only about that, you know. And it's like, a lot of that has to do also with the guilt of the person also looking at the work and also purchasing the work. You know, they have this sort of like need to apologize. So they will definitely gravitate towards you and want to talk about that, you know, or want to say that I'm behind you because I collect this type of work. And so these are just the truisms of like who we are and why we do things and why we collect or why we make. And like, because I definitely have spoken to like younger artists who would come in when that door was open. I'm not sure where it is right now, but my friend Pam says that it's closed right now. And like other things are happening and the attention is now on that. And so, but speaking to some of those artists who were 2 seconds ago, they were like, you know, driving an ambulance, you know, now all of a sudden like, it's like, this is where you go to get your 40 acres and a mule. So I'm going to, you know, I can make things too, you know? So it's like, there was a lot of that happening. So I was like, whoa, wow. You know, like, it's an interesting thing to sort of like, to be honest about, you know, when it comes to like how you create, how you're perceived, you know, because if what you're doing is perceived as the easy way out, then that's already problematic. I mean, I know a lot of artists, you know, I'm talking artists, you know, not just artists of color, but all of my friends who are artists who are just making things and on the struggle, trying to make things, trying to figure it out, at the same time, trying to be able to afford to continue to do what they're put on this earth to do. So there's a lot of bleeding that happens. And so when you find that there are people who want to sort of hijack that and say, I'm an artist also, you know, you try to hold back from being angry about that, you know, because you know that this is, you can't take this lightly, you know, this is something that's serious business, you know, and like, you just can't like just be doing this and decide that you're all of a sudden now you're like, going to be doing this now.
But I also think you're so right insofar as, you know, we categorize when we're feeling lazy, I think.
Yeah.
It's an easy thing to do, put people in buckets and make assumptions.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that I think I was so drawn to in your work is that it defies categorization. And why I asked you, like, where do you see your work sitting in the sort of canon or in art history is because it doesn't sit in one place in time. And I love that, right? It crosses... Yeah. It feels like it just doesn't, it's not just abstraction to me. It's not just assemblage. It crosses time, and that's not me blowing smoke up your ass. It really does.
I so appreciate hearing that. But it's like people have gotten to that now. But believe me, they have to go through the other thing first, the lazy way, in order to realize the work. That it took a second. But now they're starting to the dialogue has been corrected. And I think that's for me, I have to do this. So it's you can, like if I'd say that the work is a mirror and you're standing in front of it and you're seeing what and who you are, that's an absolute truism. So when I say I'm just going to not title the work, number the works, allow you to sort of have your full on experience, and I'm getting out of your way, then if you're only seeing that, then that's the truth of you. You know what I'm saying? Mm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, and I'm not going to stop them from, thinking that. That's fine. And it's like, and I don't have a problem with that at all. But when it comes to more sort of people who have to sort of like build, curate the language, they should have a bigger and broader responsibility to having an understanding of how all these things are interconnected, Mm. And don't just approach it with this sort of like bracketed idea of what you believe it should be, and then force others to sort of like, understand it in only that one-dimensional, lens. So I can't say that I've had any battles per se. These things are corrected themselves, or course corrected themselves, because they had a need to correct themselves. And so like, I'm at 62 now. My career started in 1988, and honestly, it started in 1974, my first exhibition at 13. So it's been this kind of long journey. It's sort of like, understanding facility, where that lied in terms of like, of how you make things, why you make things, and then try to sort of figure out how to get past certain things that be considered non-healthy for growing, so like, whenever I get to a place where I'm comfortable, that's when I sort of challenge that. And so like, strip it back and say like, okay, now try to sort of like make something that actually is now alien, and working way out of this hole, that can be a problem because a lot of people want you to park it, have a signature, and they want to be able to buy that signature. So it's like, I'm like, as soon as I get comfortable with, if it becomes a signature, then it's like, okay, that's the very thing that I need to sort of like, address. And it's a lot more fun. And it's super additive to your life if you sort of like, continue to sort of like to ask questions. I'm married, so I don't have kids, and it's like, they're not going to suffer from my bad decisions. So if I decided to have a signature and make more money, whatever, and had kids and whatever, and be able to better take care of them, it would make sense. But actually, I don't have those things, so I can make these bad decisions. I can be unconventional. I can sort of like just.
But yeah, and there's freedom in that, right?
Yeah, no, yeah.
Is there before I let you go? Is there any question that you wish I asked you, or that you wish people in my position asked you?
No, I'm not scripted, so it's a lot of times I'm not thinking so much that you should be scripted. So like when you ask the questions, it certainly doesn't sound like you're scripted, even though I know you sort of probably wrote some things down. Homework. But it's like, you're being professional. But the way it comes off is you're asking you're pushing the right buttons to get me to sort of like, to activate me. So I'm not scripted. So it's like, if you had shown me what you had, I probably wouldn't want to see
27 more pages, but I know I'm on a time. I'm on the clock. No, but seriously, I just wonder. I asked Rashid that earlier.
Hey, what did he say?
He had a great answer.
Yeah.
But it is interesting. Like there, even when you meet someone and you're like, you're asking me all the wrong questions, dude. Right? Like, no, it doesn't matter that I don't know. I can't think of a question that would annoy me. But is there anything that you think, God, no one asks me that? I wish they asked me about.
Maybe when you leave out, it comes to me.
Let me know.
My mind's, oh shit! I sort of like.
What do we know? And then I'll ask you next time.
Oh yeah,
and I'll win.
I can't say anything's popping in my head at the moment in terms of this kind of go with the flow. It's like so you hit me and I'm kind of like,
Like your work. I mean, you are your work, as I said.
Well, I hope I didn't disappoint.
No, my God, no. Thank you so much. One of our camera people said it's like the Sistine Chapel in here. He's not wrong. It's amazing. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, honey. Boy, no, this has been fun. It's been fun.
So good.
Super additive to the day.
Good. Thank you.
All right. You get it? You want me to repeat?
Great rehearsal.
Now we're going to do it again.
It's going to be great.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Scene Podcast. If you liked what you heard, I'd love it if you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to connect with us between episodes, follow us on Instagram at WatchSceneArt. I'm Carrie Scott, and I'll see you next time. Get it?